The Malaysian government is facing criticism for its handling of the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. The plane and its 239 passengers and crew members vanished on March 8th. Satellite data calculations indicate the plane likely crashed in the southern Indian Ocean, but that conclusion took officials more than 2 weeks to reach, a harrowing wait for those involved in the search and the families of the victims.
And joining us right now is VOA's Carolyn Presutti. Thank you so much for joining us. You've interviewed so many experts and pilots, and there was such a massive search for this plane, and yet it was undetectable. What do you think happened?
Well, I think a lot of people are asking, how could it have disappeared? I mean, it's a massive plane, as you say, and in an era when we can locate, I mean, just our cell phones. You know, we can locate this, find my phone, it has GPS, I can locate it anywhere around the area, but yet we can't find a 777 plane. Well, the reason for that is because it was over the ocean, over water. We don't really have the capability to locate this plane. Once its 6 radios are turned off and someone decides we aren't going to have any communications, then you can't find the plane.
Now, as you reported, Carolyn, 2/3 of the passengers on this plane were Chinese. How has China responded to this?
China is very upset, as are the Chinese passengers, as you mentioned. But the Chinese government is coming after the Malaysian government, saying that it was chaos. When they first came out, they really didn't know how to handle this investigation. And they've gone so far to say that Malaysia wants to be a developed country by 2020. Well, it's going to take a lot longer than that if we look at the handling of this crisis. And in addition to that, it could have economic impacts, too, on Malaysia. Malaysia gets 1.8 million Chinese tourists a year. And now the Chinese tourists say they are boycotting Malaysia.
What about the links? I mean, people have been saying that there could be some terrorism links to this, or it could help terrorists in the future to hijack planes in this kind of situation. What do you have on that?
Well, you would think that with all this information that we've given out, I mean, we live in a 24/7 news cycle, so there's all this information about a 777, the different transponders that are on it, the various radios. You know, we've given out so much information, but the terrorism experts I talk to say, don't worry about the professional groups. They're sophisticated. They already know about our planes. They already know about our security lapses. They said they can pick up a pilot's manual. They can find out online. But what we really worry about, they say, is the individual terrorist, the individual malcontent that just decides that he or she is angry and they're going to do something about this. And they're the ones that are picking up the information, picking up the tips in this investigation.
What do you think about all the theories that went around? I mean, there were so many things that people were saying. Maybe it was terrorism, like you mentioned. Maybe it was the pilot, and there were so many things back and forth. How does that affect an investigation like this when you have this kind of media frenzy?
Well, it's all speculation, as you know, because we really don't know. And until we find that transponder, we really won't know what happened in the cockpit, what happened in the passenger seats. We don't know if it's plane malfunction. We don't know if it's someone who wanted to take the plane down. But I can tell you that the investigators that I spoke to say, we don't pay any attention to that. We don't share our sources. We don't share our information. We keep it very close until we look at all the facts and we come up with an answer. And we will find out eventually.
How much of an impact would airline security have after this event?
Oh, huge. Oh, I definitely think so. We're going to see changes on the plane itself. What about a transponder that can't be turned off? No one can ever turn it off, and it continues to ping beyond those 30 days. I can see that happening. I can see a difference in the radios that you can't turn off. And what about the security for the passports? You know, there were 2 passengers that boarded with stolen passports. I think a lot more countries will be using that database from Interpol to check their passports, to make sure the right people are on the plane carrying the right passport. But you know, when we're talking about changes, mechanical changes to the plane, you have to remember that anything you add to the plane adds weight. That correlates to the amount of fuel you have to carry, which correlates to the cost for the airline.
Exactly, and the cost is a big issue. Yeah,
right, absolutely.
Well, Carolyn, thank you so much for your reporting. We really appreciate your insights. Again, VOA's Carolyn Presutti with VOA TV.